Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And we are always doing our very best here to bring to you persons who are changing our community in the direction of light. And one such person is none other than Gabriel Muthuma, who is, yes, a leadership consultant, but on the other hand, he is also a political analyst, and we are happy to have him, and knowing also that he stands also as one who professes the faith. Welcome to Spotlight.
It is always a blessing to be associated in your grace. I really, really enjoy our conversations, deep in insight, amazing time.
No, I think I enjoy them more. You do? I think I enjoy them more. I always look forward to having this time because the state of the nation.
Yes.
Because that's important.
It is.
It's good sometimes just stop and look at what's going on.
Indeed.
And so much is going on, so much. And I know that you engage a lot, both on the media and also in the background.
I do.
And so you have more than just newspaper intelligence, so to speak.
It's true, very true.
And we are concerned. We are concerned in a big way. And one of the big questions we ask ourselves, is this where we should be? Is this where we wanted to be, 10 years ago? Is this where we had hoped to be? You don't have to answer that. We'll answer it later. Let's start with good news.
Yes.
Start with good news.
Yes.
The good news part is we did the Olympics.
We did.
Somehow we were staggering, and then at the end, somehow, just hope came up, and
Indeed, that's
we were able to come the top of the continent.
That is true.
And despite the fact that there were, a lot of misgivings around the team versus the officials, and there seems to have been a certain unnecessary load of people going there.
Right.
So there was a kind of a mini scandal-ish around that.
Yeah.
And here comes the Under-20 World Championships. Comes all the way to Nairobi, Kenya, in a COVID time.
Tell you.
And when you listen to the commentators, they had only good things to say.
Exactly. Exactly.
And maybe you can tell us from where you sit, because Kenya is on top of the world. Some good news coming from the young people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, Pastor, the funny thing, and I know, I think, I don't know why you chose today, but I think this is a very appointed moment because there are things you don't even know.
Okay, let me know.
I sat in the management committee of Tokyo Olympics.
Oh, great.
Yes. I also was the director delivery in the just concluded World Earth.
You're the man.
You see?
I'm in the right place.
Of course you are. So let's start by Tokyo.
Yes.
Let's start by Tokyo. There was indeed some issues that you may have read probably on the internet or the press that were not captured correct. Now, one thing I'll tell you for sure. The cabinet minister, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, has really changed sports. Her and her counterpart, P.S. Joe Okudo, they set out to put one of the most amazing team. Whether you look at it from the NOC, Kenya, whether you look at it from Athletics Kenya, whether you look at it from the federation point of view, they actually had their hands on every pulse of the teams that were selected to go to the Olympics. For the first time, as you put it, there was really no scandal. And even the thing, and I'll come to it very quickly, even the thing of our athletes being received back at home, there was a reason as to why, and I'll tell you. The team that went to the Olympics was actually very well selected. The only problem that we seem to have faced is that they could not train as they have done in the past because of COVID restrictions. They could not probably even travel as they had wanted due to COVID restrictions. So they were in a bubble. It's called the Olympic, there is something called the COVID bubble, where all athletes have to fit in. So it was actually not the environment that they are used to. And even during our meetings, things would come up. Training is not where you just meet at the warm-up area like you used to. it was time bound. You have to train quickly and leave for other people to come. But back in the day, you would have so many people in one place and everybody is training, that one is throwing, and it's not like that anymore. The good story is nobody missed their flight. Nobody went to the Olympics without their kit. Nobody took or boarded a plane heading to Tokyo without their allowances. And more than that, out of the barrage that you've had in the past where 80 officials went, actually 6 government officials. All other team members, when you look at the coaches and the doctor and everything, were actually in line with the Tokyo and the IOC prescribed number of people who should accompany the athlete. Kenya did not even, as a matter of fact, the CS was not there. She was there only for the opening ceremony and came back home quickly. The PS, who by nature is supposed to be with the team, never traveled to keep the numbers low. So Olympics actually went very well. When the athletes were coming, and I know many people, Kenyans, wanted to come out the road and shout, we couldn't. Because one thing, they were still in a bubble. The likes of Eliud, the likes of Faith Kipyegon, when they landed, we took them for lunch, and then they had to go to Eldoret to see their families because there was a very short turnaround for them to head to the Diamond League in the United States. And immediately, a week after, they went to see the head of state who invited them in Mombasa. They landed back and they were out. So you imagine the scenario I was asking Kenyans. You imagine Eliud was, we came, we are giving Eliud Mursik, we are hugging, and then guess what? He gets COVID. Do you know how much he loses? Because he'll be straight, he'll be taken to quarantine. That's give or take 14 days, meaning he misses the Diamond League. This is where they earn their living. Faith Kipyegon, people like Bridget, you have people like Helen Ombiri, and for the first time, we had in Africa, we are the champs, we had a volleyball team, we had a rugby team. I mean, these young people actually, they are the most amazing thing that has happened to us.
Yeah, well explained.
Yes.
Well explained. And sometimes we need this kind of background information,
Yes.
technical information for light to shine upon our minds.
Exactly.
Fast forward,
Yes.
the under 20.
Oh,
that was amazing.
By all, you saw the president himself, Sebastian Coe, the president of World Athletics, was in town with his team. We received over 100 nations who came to our capital. We had an amazing 1 week where the world was just focusing on Kenya. And let me tell you, it was broadcasted to millions of homes globally.
I was listening to the commentators.
Oh.
And they had only good things to say.
It was
and they kept saying how well organized it is. And yeah.
And I tell you, Pastor, from the security, from accommodation, you come to the bubble itself. We created that bubble. For the first time, I was like, I couldn't even believe this is Kenya, the airport transfers. The signing of COVID, it was so well run that when Seb Coe went back, he coined one of the best letters, I think. And I'm praying that our able minister will allow Kenyans to see that letter. Because this is from the eyes of the president of World Athletics himself. He was actually mesmerized by how we were able to, but more than that, we started picking gold.
Oh,
and at one point I was like, this, because we had serious competition.
It was intense.
We had Nigeria, we had Ethiopia, and we had, that they broke the world record, in was it, I think, in 100, and we just had stiff competition. It wasn't easy, but we also found our glory, so to speak.
Gabriel, what's really impressive?
Yes.
And coming from now, what we are often used to.
Yes.
It's just the absence of any public scandal about such a big and important event.
Amazing.
And doesn't that, tell us or make us ask ourselves, why do we have scandals? Because everyone would have expected, there will be a scandal coming from there, But this, even if you look under the lenses, there's no scandal coming out.
And
why? And that tells us we can do it.
Of course. And one thing I believe, that's why I told you, I think the most important takeaway for me was that it actually clears as true as fact the definition that it rises and falls with leadership. I can tell you the team that the cabinet secretary and her PS were able to institute, they just didn't go and quota everyone. They cherry-picked people who are able to deliver. And that's why, Pastor, I agree with you 110%. We can do it. We only need to have the passion and bring in people who share with that passion to deliver.
You know, the passion and the intentionality.
Yes.
That what we desire is an output of quality, an output of excellence, an output that is scandal-free.
Totally. You know, we cannot have any other tagline apart from the home of champions. Can you imagine? I remember one time, and you know, Kenyans on Twitter can be very rough. Remember, I actually brought CNN to their knees when they called Kenya a hotbed of of terror. And I remember how we came down really on CNN. But I think as much as we are able to get onto our phones and hit on somebody, we can also get on the same media and tell our story. Because this was an amazing story.
All right. Now, of course, I can tell your passion because you're there.
No, totally.
You're part of it.
Totally.
But let's stay with the stadium.
Yes.
Let's stay with Kasarani Stadium.
Yes.
Now, years back, when the Jubilee government was taking up the governance of this country, we had the president and the deputy president in the same stadium.
Yes.
And they knelt down before the whole world.
Yes.
And asked God to help them.
Correct.
To lead this country to prosperity.
Correct.
Now, when you kneel, it also means that you will govern on your knees.
Correct.
My question to you, who stood up?
Pastor, and I think that's an amazing question. And you see, more than anything, and you may have had a time when the deputy president actually mentioned that as a banter. And he said, you know, when the president said we had to kneel down and for us to be prayed for, you know, the camaraderie within the ranks, island ranks, was afterwards the chief of defense, you know, came and told the deputy president, you know, there's no way you guys can be kneeling and all your soldiers are standing. So he made that as a banter. But I think it's a very good question to ask who stood, you know, because when we started in the realm of prayer. And myself and you, and probably thousands and millions of other Christians who witnessed this amazing day thought this is how it would continue. But along the way, I think something happened. We cannot for sure point who stood, but what we know is that it is not where it started. And virtue of that, I think as we move along, we must do our duty, me and you, Pastor, and that is to pray for our leaders. We need that prayer of David, that prayer of renewing a righteous spirit within our leaders. It is us, not them, who prayed for themselves. It is us who prayed for them, right? So I think we need to go back to where it all started.
You know, I just want to ask you also, because it was a dreamy start.
Oh, amazing.
You know, and what does that do to us next time we see a similar combination of a deputy and a president kneeling down again to be prayed for? Because we have kind of way publicly lowered our expectations as far as the effect of spirituality, you know, public spirituality on governance.
You know, another good question, I think, and I don't want to say yours and mine, faith won't waver when we see such outcome again. We may not have the enthusiasm that we had earlier on. They said, in the colloquial slang, them tiny word will say, it always make. You know?
Oh, we've seen this before.
Yes. In Nikipindi, you know? But I think what must reign supreme within the spiritual fraternity is that we will stand in the gap. We will do what we need to do.
Okay.
We will focus and hope, because that is the only thing. And I like the fact that we are in a program called, you know,
We're in Hope. We're in Hope.
We are
We're
in
on Hope
Hope
TV.
TV.
Yes.
I would really pray that that hope will be what cements the candidature of the two people who come in. And more than that, I pray that they will learn from the mistakes or what happened to their former.
You know what? Just when you stay with that, with what happened.
Yes.
There has been a lot about not knowing what happened
Yes.
in the recent past.
Yes.
For instance, we talk about the BBI.
Correct.
It has for a long time been said no one knows what the two people agreed, right?
Correct.
Now, this recently when the president was talking,
Yes.
He said he was asked the same question: "What happened between you and your deputy?"
Yes.
He said he doesn't know what
Yes.
happened.
Yes.
You know, he doesn't know what happened. There's a lot about not knowing what is happening. Of course, there was the part when also the president was asked some time back
Yes.
about some questions. He said, "What do you want me to do?"
Yes,
You know, it
exactly.
seems there's a lot of not knowing
Yes.
going on. And but let me just assess the situation, because now we are from outside,
Yeah.
you know, looking in.
Yes.
There seems to be a betrayal on one hand.
Yes.
But on another person, they may say it is also a defiance on the other.
Correct.
So on one, people say it's betrayal, others say it's defiance. What do you see?
And you know, that's a problem when we don't have the information. But, you know, let me just go back to where the question that you've asked about, you know, His Excellency the President, when he's asked, or when he was asked, really what happened between you and the Deputy President. I think, in my own view, and probably it may not be shared by many other people, everybody has their own way of interpreting things. There is something that happened. It's only that we don't know exactly what it was that happened. Could it have been something to do with them not agreeing on various policies? Maybe. Could it have been an issue where, you know, the president probably may have told him, you know, there's something I want you to do, and this is my vision, and I want you to join in with, you know, stop campaigning, and, you know, because we've told that in the past. The president actually at Boma said, you know, I told my brother William, this is what, I mean, this was like a relay where you know, where you exchange the batons and things like those. But it appears my good brother started running the other, you know. He made, even though that came out as a banter, could it have been they really disagreed on major policy shifts or major leadership shifts? We will never know, Pastor, but one thing we know is that they are not the way they were when they came into office. And the fact that we do not have the requisite information that can guide us to making a just conclusion really opens up. And it's not good for anybody. Opens up room for rumors. It opens up room for starting to point fingers at one person and saying, "Apana, this one, you know, did this to the other one, or this one did." Because now, when we talk about betrayal, who betrayed who? When we talk about defiance, who defied? Because both of them at one point or the other, remember, they've made statements. The Deputy President at one point said, "As far as I know, I have never defied my boss. Every little or major thing he has asked out of me, I accomplished. And if there is none, let somebody come out and say, I asked you to do this, you never did."
And the question arises as we talk about this.
Yes.
The initial unity,
Yes.
the one that they campaigned with,
Yes.
and the one with which they knelt with.
Correct.
And it looked very real.
Yes.
Could it have been also not solid? Could it be a unity that was wished for as compared to a unity that really was?
Pastor, if I tell you I've not thought about that many times, I would be lying. I've actually thought about it because I've tried to reminisce. what was it that we saw? Was it something that was just agreed upon in passing? Or was this an element that was to have become a symbol that other leaders could emulate? The fact that 2007, 2008, after what we went through, that these young leaders came together and said, no more bloodshed.
Never again. That was
Never
the
again.
call.
Yes.
Never again.
And in humility, they went to The Hague together. The amount of times that this country knelt in prayer for those two sons.
And the emotional
Oh
strain
my goodness.
across the citizen. Yes.
Yeah, imagine. So I've always asked, was this what we go back to call Akipindi? I do not think it was. Because I sometimes think we can play to a certain extent and God, reveals it. But I don't think there's a way we would have pulled that situation or that environment for too long without God exposing it. Therefore, I believe the coming together could have been genuine, but somewhere along the way, as we are trying to decipher, something which we do not know happened. Because if both of them do not have clear-cut statements, that actually leaves us in a very terrible place, because we do not actually even know how to, even if you are to tell somebody that you would want to join them again, where do you start?
And when you're still at that, sometimes we think also in the abstract.
Yes.
And one of the things that has been said over and over again, the deputy president has been told resign, and then he says that's his own, it's for him to decide, it's for him to. Then of course it's the big a legal aspect that they are tied to the hip.
Correct.
The presidency
Correct.
cannot, divorce from each other. They are joined together.
Yes.
And in that whole moment, let's fast forward.
Yes.
There is a future or incoming deputy president who is in waiting someplace. He or she could be someplace and is watching this whole drama.
Yes.
I mean, don't you think they are feeling very powerful? Because, if you can be able to operate so independently, of your boss.
Yes, exactly.
And, you even feel that your boss is really having a headache because of you. You feel that you're even more powerful than your boss. So what does this mean to the incoming, deputy president, he or she?
That is actually an amazing question, because anybody wanting to capture or take that office will really be so in tune this time round with their boss. It's a must. I think, to where I'm seated, it has to be almost a near guarantee. Now, you've put it quite right, that the Constitution allows that once you're joined into a ticket, it cannot be separated constitutionally. Even the president himself cannot fire his deputy. Even when you tell him to resign, it has to be out of his own volition. Even though the Constitution also allows, and gives articles on how to impeach a deputy president. But it's not as easy as many people would think, because if it were, it would have happened a long time ago. Same way, Pastor, somebody may come and think it's very easy to impeach the governors that we've seen impeached. It wasn't easy. The kind of background, items and things and actions that have gone in the background, there are many. Same way, it's not as easy as we think to impeach an elected official. But more than that, I think any person sitting on that seat of the deputy president, even though they may come with that aura of what I do what.
Exactly,
it may actually not be good for the country if they do not marinate their work ethic. Meaning, you must be joined by something. And this is the problem. If you come to just run for running so that you can capture power without a core realization of what you want to do, and me and you agree on these aspects, that this is our agenda item, that our scorecard should read the two of us. Should this not go well, it's me and you.
You see, Gabriel,
Yeah.
now, that unity that you're talking about seemed so possible in the previous. Actually, everything seemed to say this was a dream team.
Exactly.
And they were joined by pain.
Yes.
They were joined by tears.
Yes.
They were joined by threats.
Yes.
And the unity that is made out of such pain.
Correct.
It's bound to stay longer, or it's thought to stay a little longer, longer and tighter.
Totally.
But now here is a country where the positions are shared out of not ideological convictions, as we're talking about, but out of representation.
That's a problem.
So here is a deputy who comes on board based on representation. Or maybe tribal representation, or regional representation, or gender representation. Whatever it can be. But now, how tight would that be? Is that gelling enough?
You see, again, great observation.
It's kind of the case of the governors and the
MCAs.
The governor thought these are just guys, but with time they realized, whoa, these guys are really critical.
You see, Pastor, the one thing I'll agree with you, which builds the greatness of our Constitution, is that our Constitution is so solid when it presents the hierarchy of leadership. It is no longer what they used to be. It's what the new Constitution has allowed them to be. And in an essence, what we as Kenyans, people who actually voted in this Constitution, allowed, we allowed there to be accountability on all spheres of government. Whether you're looking at it from the judiciary, from the executive, the judiciary, or the legislature, even though that is not what has happened, we envisioned that our Constitution would allow there to be a lot of accountability on all spheres of leadership. But I think governors came in with this swag of, like you've said, you are a councillor, No, they are not. These are people who have the power directly from the mwananchi, grassroots, to impeach you. And that's why you saw many governors now obviously align with the MCAs. Even MCA today, and I know most of them have really not lived up to their true leadership mantle. They'll come and tell the governor, we want to go to Dubai. And the governor will run helter-skelter to ensure that these people travel. Because he knows if he plays around with their, things will happen. They come and say, we want to go for whatever forum, call it, to Mombasa. And guess what? They are going to be allowed to go to Mombasa. So it's not the right thing, but it also goes to show you that the person we thought would have the core leadership, and I think that's what the Constitution was trying to do. It was trying to take over power from an individual and cluster it across the board so that no person can have that supreme power like we had back in the Moi days. And you may remember, at that time, there's something people don't talk about. The president was above the law. Meaning he could take you outside there, shoot you, and still get away with it. So.
Gabriel, it's amazing because then every presidential candidate has to have the deputy headache, in terms of going forward. We'll talk more about that. And we have to scrutinize the handshake again and see, because the handshake moment seemed to have been celebrated, but the institutions that came out of it, they have been kind of rejected. We'll come to that. We'll take a short break. Viewer, we are talking about the state of the nation, and we are engaging the Gabriel Muthuma, who is a political analyst, giving us his views, perspective. You want to stay right here. We'll be right back after this very short break. This is Spotlight. Viewer, welcome back. This is Spotlight, and we are engaging the state of the nation with Gabriel Muthuma, who is a leadership consultant and also a political analyst. And before the break, we were talking about the handshake.
Correct.
And the handshake moment, when we remember it, was in a time of great tension in this country.
Yes.
And when the handshake moment came, it was clear that temperatures really came down.
Totally.
And that is registered by across the board, that something peaceful did happen with that moment.
Yes.
But now the institutions that grew out of the handshake have really seen turbulence until court level after court level is really still insisting that these institutions, no, they are not consistent with the law, and that's the BBI.
Yes.
Now, my question to you is, where now do we locate the value of the handshake? I mean, where do we locate it now? Do we still say it's valuable, or I mean, just what do you say?
You know, I take the handshake at this point to mirror what we had 2007, 2013, which was what people have come to call Nusum Kata government. It came as a band-aid solution for a specific period of time. Now, and I think probably what the president had envisioned was this handshake may actually go ahead of time and ingrain some of the goodness that they perceived at that time to ingrain in our constitution and ensure that they are solidified and Kenyans get to understand them. Remember, even after the handshake came in, most people, including some members of Honorable Raila Odinga's party, this is ODM and NASA, most of them did not know what the handshake was all about. And it took time.
And they asked to be brought in.
Yes. And it took time for many people to really read the 9-point agenda that was laid bare. Now, one thing I'll agree with the proponents back then is that indeed we were in a very serious situation. It would have been very easy to go back to 2007, 2008. People never saw that, but I honestly started seeing, issues here and there that could have easily led us to, 2007, 2008. But what really happened quite quickly, and we had come from Uhuru, but people had come from swearing in a people's president, so things were really not going the right way. And so when the handshake happened, indeed, as you've really observed, Pastor, things calmed down. We had now a situation whereby things went to normalcy. But again, the institution that came with the handshake, produced BBI. And there are certain aspects within BBI that I've studied. I've studied that document, Pastor, right, left. And I've sat down with very renowned legal scholars to look at that document. And one thing I can tell you, Pastor, there were good things in that document. The problem was how, they came to be presented. Many people questioned the issue of public participation. Many people questioned the issue of what can be done in parliament versus through a referendum. Many people came in asking or wanting to know, is this just about what you're telling us, or is there an underhand in it that will, mess up our constitution and bring out aspects of leadership that we don't know, or probably that is just going to put our wage bill, continue stressing our wage bill, creating of those positions that people are talking about, also dented it. And at some point, something called the Judiciary Ombudsman was introduced. And many people really, within the legal fraternity, failed to know what that was. What it came out as was that it's the executive trying to bring a sense of control and management of the judiciary. Call it micromanagement, if you will. And that has seated badly within the judiciary and the legal fraternity. Is that what was intended? We do not know. But the one thing that remains true is that both the High Court and the Court of Appeal, it doesn't matter whether you go to the Supreme Court at this point, I don't see, or I don't think the verdict will be any different.
And you see, as you talk about that, I'm thinking about history.
Yes.
When the history of Kenya is written,
Yes.
where will the handshake fit? Like, what will we say about it? I mean, will it be held, or will it be attached to this other or whole process that really has brought the moment down? I mean,
But another good. I would hate for it to be attached with what has happened. I would want it to be remembered for calming things down, and I would want Kenyans to realize that sometimes that handshake is not only needed to be displayed by the top echelons in leadership. It needs to be displayed by neighbors, by the people mashinani, that once we come to the end of an election, that we reach out again and say, hey, it's like the way we watch a football match. You're Arsenal, I'm Liverpool. And we say, hey, Mazé, team yenyu imetoka. But after that, we go and have a cup of tea. I pray, Pastor, and many people who share the same probably hope. It's really it will actually be a major turning point when we are able to achieve that.
Right.
So how does the handshake go out of this limelight? I pray that it will be remembered for calming things down. What has happened after the handshake? Because as you have seen right now, I mean, Honorable Raila Odinga has said he's not pursuing it any further. He has gone back to concentrate on his campaigns.
Which is an important point there,
Yes.
because when you think about the handshake, it didn't have an aspect of ambition, right? Like personal ambition.
Yes.
When the president and the deputy president had this falling out,
Yes.
I mean, there seemed to have been no aspect of ambition really openly.
Correct.
There could have been disagreement, but,
Yes.
but what has happened now, these two critical people,
Yes.
the deputy president is now clearly, his ambition to be president is clear.
Yes.
And he was a symbol of unity, remember?
Correct.
At the very beginning,
Correct.
the Jubilee
Correct.
government.
Correct.
He is the handshake
Yes.
person.
Yes.
Who is Raila, Honorable Raila.
Yes.
He's also come out now
Yes.
as ambitious to be
Yes.
president.
Yes.
Now, where is sincerity here? I mean, is it all about ambition? Was it all about ambition? What's going on?
I would really like to believe it was not just all about ambitions, because I told you there's some great things, Pastor, in that document. For instance, you will not believe it. I've been on the ground. I've seen. I've written policies about it. There was a time I was, at the Ministry of Education, and I've seen these things, Pastor. The way we distribute resources, the revenue allocation within our counties is very flawed. Indeed, it is. That a child in Ruiru gets 3,000 and one in some other county gets 40,000. It's very skewed. We needed to find a formula, whether through BBI or otherwise, that will align that particular element. That is one big thing that I thought BBI would achieve. Many people are really not interested with the power. Power goes to, the creation of prime minister. Many people are not keen. And the fact that we've gone on 2 stages of judicial proclamation, it tells you also that we also need to congratulate the same leaders for this thing. I really congratulated the president for agreeing, even though the judgment did not favor him, for accepting the ruling of the court. Similarly, I really thank Honorable Raila Odinga for doing the very same thing. Back in the day, probably would have seen maandamano in the streets. Nothing of that sort is happening. So it also tells me and you that we are coming of age, that when the judiciary speaks, we may not like the judgment, but we must respect it.
All right. As you talk about it, I'm thinking about such huge statements like, no one can stop reggae. Like that certainty, a political expression of certainty. And I feel that it's no longer a statement that can be taken for itself.
Yeah.
It has to be taken as a prayer, you know. and when we're still at that, and this is very important,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
we will still need a way
Yes.
in which this country will know perpetual unity.
Yes.
We still will find a way.
Yes.
Well, the economic dimension is
Yes.
one.
True.
You know, but
True.
you and I know
Yes.
that the 2007, 2008
Yes.
happened when the economy of this country was thriving.
Correct.
You remember
Correct.
that?
Totally.
The
Totally.
big highs.
Yes. Yes.
Almost equaling the,
Yes.
just the post-independent, like early years of independence.
Yes.
So economics may exactly not be
Yes.
a guarantee
Yes.
to unity.
Correct.
Although there's still so much,
Yes.
you know, infusion into that conversation
Yes.
that economics will unite.
Yes,
You know?
correct.
But our experience shows it, not exactly.
Totally.
Now, from where you sit,
Yes.
we have seen disunity quite a bit.
Correct.
Even in the present government,
Correct.
which we hoped for.
Correct.
Now, going forward, what do you see as the glue that will give us authentic unity? Because as long as we keep, you know,
Yes.
being broken,
Yes.
we can never be a perfect union.
Totally.
We can be a more perfect
Totally.
union, but we
Totally.
can never be a perfect
Totally.
union.
Totally.
But we can be increasingly perfect.
Totally.
Now, what do you think is the glue, or will be the glue that brings real unity in this country? So
Excellent.
at least we get to have an environment
Excellent.
where thriving is possible.
Excellent. Pastor, before I tell you what I feel, and I know for sure if we work on them, I think we'll be more united than ever. Let me actually talk to our viewers, and I think that's the camera that we are using. There is something you need to differentiate between a politician's slogan and the realities on the ground. When somebody comes and says, nobody can stop reggae, that's a slogan. Don't take it to heart. And I think, Pastor, this is where...
So also, when somebody says also, the hustler nation, we should also not take
yes.
it to heart.
These are slogans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you take them to heart, things change and do change. Now, if there's something that is always constant in politics, it's change.
Mm-hmm.
One will say this today, tomorrow you won't even believe they are the same people who spoke about it. As we move along, all these cries, hues and cries will die down. They will die down. Trust me. Take it from me. Nobody can stop reggae will die down. Even the hustlers, it will die down. And we are going to be left with one thing. It's called the reality of the moment. Now, I want to combine the reality of the moment as a set of items that we must do to remain together. Pastor, in all thriving democracies, in all thriving jurisdictions, people find out what brings them together by understanding the challenges and knowing which ones of those challenges in your locale you are going to solve as a matter of supreme urgency and importance. That is how you find the glue that brings you together. We look at our environment, observe it deeply, and we say, we have a deficiency in education, not in central Kenya or in Nyanza, Kenya. There is a deficiency of education. We don't have enough classrooms. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have, and we can come and say, even our curriculum is skewed. We sit down as a people and we are joined, we are brought together by a common purpose. And we say, we are going to work on our education. We are going to work on our industries. We are going to work on our manufacturing. That is how Big Four was produced. Mm-hmm. I tell you here and now, Pastor, without fear of contradiction, had we followed the Big Four, because the Big Four is not the first time any country is trying to do. This is how Singapore changed. This is Lee Kuan Yew's dream. He said, first and foremost, we must identify the things that we need to change for us to have a country that we want. Not the one that will just come out. We must sit down and ask, Pastor, what Kenya do we want? Mm-hmm. Once we find out that, we look at the challenges that are set before us. And as a nation, we earmark them and pigeonhole on these are the items that we must work on to make a change in this country. And you know what comes after the change? Transformation. Kenya will be transformed. It has taken just a few months, to just do this huge road. Have you seen it? All the way to the airport.
No, it makes
that is transformation.
It makes the older road look like a service lane.
I didn't say that you did, which is true.
Yeah.
But I mean, 10 years ago, Pastor, you would not have said. And that's how transformation happens. Do not get beat so much, Pastor, or let's not really lose hope for having to be told that at one point we were at par with the Asian Tigers. It is just that they thought faster, harder, and made decision-making a priority than we did. Does it not hurt you to realize that the things we set out to change at independence, we are still struggling with them?
Which is really, really sad.
Does it not hurt you?
It is sad. It is tragic.
Exactly, that's the word.
It is depressing.
That we are still
and we're
fighting
still
ignorance.
7 years
almost
later.
60 years.
Yeah.
We're still fighting ignorance, still fighting disease. We're still fighting hunger. We are yet to make those matters or issues become our past.
I don't know. So what have we been doing? What have we been doing? You get anyway. We've been doing stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Let me also ask, because this is important, and because all institutions also must think that way.
Yes.
And one of the institutions that must think that way as well, very passionately, what we need to remake is the church.
Correct.
And I want to ask you, as a person who is familiar with politicians, why is the church so important to the politician? Why is that even the ones who may not be on a day-to-day basis churchy, why must they stop by the church?
Let me tell you something, and I've told people this. There was a youth group I was talking to some time back, and I told them the church is the only institution that I know that has withstood the test of time. It's the church. And I told them the reason why politicians love the church. If a politician walks into a political rally meeting, confusion, distortion, this one is yelling, kwenda huko, that one is there throwing something. But the church is organized. Walks on stage, sits down there, we sing, we pray. There is an organized quorum, which is easier to talk to.
Somebody else has done the work. and quietened the people.
After somebody speaks, there's choir out there that reminisces the entire political message. But more than that...
And then after the offertory, there's a prayer that sanitizes whatever it came from,
The church has a say in most of our politics. As a matter of fact, let me shock you. If we started public participation in churches, you would be shocked. You would be shocked how it would change things in this country. Because people are organized, people listen. We only need to equip the leadership of the church. And they need to be edified enough to know that politics in a given country is the platform in which change is made. So the church has a big say. What I fail to understand, Pastor, sometimes is, do they recognize? Does the church recognize? Because last time I told you, the church can no longer afford to be a passenger. They can no longer afford to be bystanders.
And could it be also, Gabriel, that the politician wouldn't want the church to realize
And that could be it.
the amount of say that it can have on so many things?
The only institution that has withstood the test of time is church, more than most governments. And that's why I'm saying, I hope, I pray, does the church realize the kind of muscle that they bring in our political discourse?
Now when you're at that, now one of the things that's coming up now as the church is preparing itself to the 2022
Yes.
is that there seems to be a huge chorus across many denominations
Yes.
that our churches will not be campaign zones.
Yes.
Our churches will not be campaign zones. And
Yes.
so there's a lot of many denominations that are saying now, no, politicians, you're welcome to the
Yes.
church,
Yes.
but you will not speak in church.
Yes.
But why is it that the priest is still, even with all these declarations,
Yes.
the priest is still unable to say no to the politician standing up and speaking?
Pastor, very simply, distinction, distinction, distinction. Most of these politicians are your members. When do you distinguish between a member and a politician? Literally, you can't. I've been coming to this church every Sunday. I've been giving and I've been, I've been in meetings. I come from men's fellowship. Will you divorce me when I start running for public office? Should you embrace me more or should you distance? That's the distinction the church is not unable to make. Their politicians are your members. So they know the church is quite a very important piece in their political journey. And that is why, if you look clearly and sincerely, most politicians, most of them, finalize their campaigns in church.
Yeah, they when the campaign rallies are
done.
ended, they go to worship. And the worship houses are still open.
Yes, even
Yes.
they know that is a stage that carries a lot of relevance.
All right. Now, 2022.
Yes.
The church still has some time
Yes.
to organize its
Correct.
participation,
Correct.
its contribution.
Correct.
If there was one thing
Yes.
that you would tell the church,
Yes.
so that 2022,
Yes.
it doesn't come to again a point of where the church is saying, oh, we are sorry,
Yes.
we didn't do this,
Yes.
or we regret,
Yes.
we were this,
Yes.
and they have to wait for another 5 years
Yes.
to redeem themselves, So what's the one thing that the church must do so that can play a significant contribution in the 2022 outcomes and processes?
Very easy. First of all, the church must have a very basic, and I'm calling it a very basic standard. Very basic. I'm not talking about sophistication, no. A very basic standard that we are going for the best.
We are going for the best.
The basic standard.
Well, can we take that as a mantra?
Please.
I mean,
Yes.
will you sue us?
No, I won't.
We are going for the best. All right.
And nothing but the best. Very simple. Don't make it sophisticated. Don't confuse people. We're saying we are going.
So if you hear that mantra someplace
please.
else, just know it began
actually,
here.
patent it.
Just know
Yes,
it began
yes.
here. We are going for the best.
And, the church, with its wisdom, must be recognized as such. As these politicians really fight to create a platform, the church must exercise her highest wisdom as proof that the resident and the creator of the universe resides in the church.
Can I say amen?
Please do.
Amen.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is, in fact, should be their irreducible minimum. We go for the best. And if there's any place that is able to differentiate or should be able to differentiate between solid leaders,
It's a church. All right. Now, it's always very exciting to hear your perspective.
yes,
I must ask you this.
yes,
Politician, aspirant is the dominant newspaper headline,
yes,
right?
yes,
But 2022 is coming, and this is our final
Yes.
question. How do we make sure, Gabriel, that Wanjiku wins in 2022?
In fact, to me, that is the most brilliant question that we can end our program with. Wanjiku-centered. A great man once said, and this is something I've used in the past, the tranquility of a nation is based upon the premise of a very simple truth. Nothing is important in a democracy than an informed electorate. Underline the word informed. Wanjiku must be informed. It's no longer a case of sitting down and pointing at somebody. No. It is you sitting and realizing that the person you pick is going to be literally one driving your affairs. Pastor, it is not lost that any silly person out there can pick the best doctor. Even the most unlearned, the most uneducated, they can pick the most qualified doctor when it comes to their own issues. They will even ask, how many times have you done this?
What's the success rate of your operations?
Yes.
Yes.
Because they know that they are going for the best. How hard is it to look at somebody's track record? And this is where we get it wrong. Let me end by giving you an example. Remember when President Obama and John McCain were running for president, and later with Mitt Romney. All those leaders, should America have voted either way, do you know what would have remained constant? That they would have had great leaders. If John McCain became president or Obama, it did not matter. America would still be the great nation. Forget about Trump, we won't talk about him. Same thing with Mitt Romney. If America had decided either way, that country, because they had two great leaders running, two great leaders. So you're able to make a distinction between two best or two better candidates. So the best one comes out. It is the same thing that we have not been able to identify between the better candidate and the best candidate. We seem to always go for the worst candidate. Hence why I tell people, had we looked enough before we brought in some governors in places like Nairobi and Kiambu, we would have known that just because somebody comes to the microphone and he's able to talk your language does not mean they have passed the test of integrity. It is therefore a thing that Wanjiku must realize by going for the best, just like the church, by understanding a good leader, that you're tied to the hip, that this person will be making policies on behalf of your son and daughter and yourself. You should take politics seriously. And that, depending on who you vote, somebody can actually open up to their hip, remove a gun, shoots you, and walks in these streets. And yet, they are an elected official. It's because of the people you vote.
All right.
It starts, it rises, and falls on leadership.
Thank you very much.
Anytime,
Very
Pastor.
passionate,
Anytime.
very insightful.
I am.
And we will continue engaging as we get into this election.
We need to.
We need to keep engaging, keeping perspective, passionate perspective.
Yes.
That gives us the best.
Indeed.
And viewer, we have been talking about the state of the nation. And one thing that is very clear is that let's go for the best.
Exactly.
This has been Spotlight. Thank you for watching.